Hey,
Hello.
can you hear and see okay?
Yeah, yeah, I
Awesome.
can. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, this is perfect. I'm always amazed when it works, and I'm always amazed when it doesn't. I don't, so
hmm Well, I figured that, well, I wasn't going to make it home in time.
okay.
So I'm broadcasting from work.
Oh, nice. Well, I couldn't bother to get out of bed, so don't feel too bad, I guess.
I
As
could have
much as I respect you.
yeah, well, I could have made an effort really, couldn't I?
No.
Just think, I could have been in my own bed at this moment if I'd have planned a bit better. But
No, you're good. Um, Thank you for joining. Hey, I have my my friend Nikki. Well, you've joined a bunch of these. You've kind of seen.
mhm.
So I have my friend Nikki usually starts us off with a little message.
I love Nikki.
Do you?
I really
Well,
do. I was really hoping that I would like get to hear some kind of like a intro.
yes. Well, I don't know what she has planned, but I do know that Nikki actually couldn't make it today. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's her
okay.
friend. So my friend Nikki asked her friend, what's her name? Samantha, to fill in for her.
Okay.
Okay, so she has a message. I'm gonna play it for you right here. Uh, should be able to hear. Here we go.
For the record, please state your name.
Did you
Loran
get that?
Cook. I
Okay. All
did.
right. That's good. Okay, she has more. Um,
For the record,
whoops.
please state your name. Thank you. Will you now advise the viewers on what your clothing feels like? Be as specific as possible.
Did you catch that?
So my clothing, uh, comfortable for a work setting.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair enough. That's good. Okay, and it looks like she has a little bit more. My goodness, she is verbose tonight.
Interesting. Finally, where were you on the night of May 7th, 2018?
Where was I? Uh, I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
that's
at
a year ago. A
maybe
year
at
ago today.
home.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Maybe,
I don't know
yeah,
if she's
just
gonna like. Yeah.
hanging out with the kids or something.
Yeah. Seems innocent enough.
They're my kids. Like, let me.
Oh, you're. That didn't even cross my mind. That's funny.
So not too creepy sounding, hopefully.
So, yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and anything that you'd care to share, and that might open up some conversation.
I'm a budding author, sometime doodler, for many, many years. You can probably detect the accent. So I've been in the States for about 15 years now. So I'm kind of always been a writer, and I've done several projects and had a couple of things published, small time, you know. And I've done a project that you were involved in, which I still
Yeah,
love
that's
to
right.
this day,
Yeah,
which is always one of my favorites.
that's
It
a
was
fun
so
one.
awesome.
People always have a good response to that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so do you have that? What do they say about it then? Like, I'm always interested to see what people think of like who came up with this, or like what, how did
Um,
this come?
yeah. The thing that I usually hear is something about the twist.
Oh yeah.
Um, which is great because like stories that I write for myself don't usually have like a big twist, you know.
hmm
Um, so I guess it's pretty noticeable, and it's such a good twist, that yeah, they always have to say something about it. So I love it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a fun one. That was a whole fun project, I think. Like my
Yeah.
doing that whole anthology.
Well, you should say something about that. Like, what are you talking about? What is this anthology?
And you know what? I have just a little. I don't have anything to put my phone on, like to stand it up without holding it.
Yeah.
So here I'll.
Oh yeah. Hey.
I have like a copy of it. Strangely enough.
That's awesome.
And Jess's story.
Well, this was your senior project, right?
Yeah. So I did like an anthology horror graphic novel, and I thought, well, I could do anything I wanted, and I did integrated studies. So I was doing like analytic communication and English, and I wanted to kind of do something outside of the box, where it comes to creating a final piece, I guess, to kind of like a capstone project. And so I wrote about 5 or 6 small, short horror stories, and each one was a different style of art, a different style of writing, and just trying to do something different and new, and so, ooh, my headphones come out.
Oh. You know what's...
There we go.
You good?
So,
like, what's so weird on my end here is like it will... I know for everyone else they can see it, but it will freeze for me for whatever reason.
oh, okay.
So I can hear you, but like I can tell now that you're showing something, but it's frozen. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, go ahead.
My headphone popped out, so I think that was why it kind of froze.
Oh, you're good.
So can you see that?
Oh, that's our story. Okay, yeah. There it is.
Yeah, victuals.
Yeah.
About happy, sometimes angry, were dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Which totally sounds like right up your alley.
Oh, it's yes. So natural for me.
So yeah, it was kind of fun. And it's so striking, like the whole splash page.
Yeah. That was... Do you mind if I share a little bit of my experience with that?
Yeah.
Just because I always think it's interesting when people ask about how do you collaborate, especially on a comic. Someone writes, someone draws. How does that work? And I think this was my first comic collaboration. And you had told me, you said, I've got this idea for this comic and it's part of my capstone project. And I was wondering if you'd do the artwork. And I was like, yeah, tell me about it. This sounds awesome. And so you kind of went through like the plot, the story elements with me. I was like, excuse me. I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. I'm totally on board. And then I went home and I was like, okay, I think I waited a little bit because I was like, okay, he's going to send over like the script or, and so like we talked again. And I was like, so I think we were both a little confused because I was like, so, yeah, did you just want to send the story over? And I think you're confused because you're like, well, I told you the story. Like,
oh,
I told you. No, and this is a good thing. This is not like, I just think it reveals like the function and the roles that take place. And so anyway, then it hit me like, you weren't necessarily saying like I had to use like specific dialogue, right? Like specific words in the dialogue, or even in like the the captions, but it was more like, here's the sequence of events. Here are like the themes. Here are the different characters. And so you gave me like all the concepts and the sequence, and that has been actually really helpful since, because then when I do have writers that send a script and something is lacking, I can see that conceptually. I can go, this character, why is this character here? Like, he's just in the background the whole time. Like, is he doing anything? Like, does that contribute to the story? Or even just the dialogue? Like, is that moving things forward? And I think it was our collaboration that helped me kind of see things in that way, I guess. So that was really cool.
That makes me actually really happy, because I think sometimes with a couple of the other stories, I often thought, oh, am I being too hands-on? You know, I need to get my vision for the story out, you know, but then am I being too, like, am I dictating too much? And I want any artist that I work with to be able to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, like, with a couple of the other ones, one of the other stories, in fact, I felt a bit restricted. But then another one, it was like I just sent the actual, and it was like one of them is like a poem, you know. It's kind of like a poem form, and I don't know if Andy Bean, and he did. Where is his? There's Darcy in Glass.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like this whole.
Yeah.
Printed piece, which had a lot of things like that, which is pretty cool. And I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was blown away by every single person that I collaborated with.
Well, sorry.
As a first experience, writing and collaborating with other artists, yeah. I think I was like, I was so lucky, you know, like I got the cream of the crop, and it was just amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better first experience, you know?
No, that's really good to hear, because, I mean, obviously collaborations can turn south, especially if you're working with like 5 or 6 artists. I mean, there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong. I just want to mention that Andy used his pictures for his BFA project, right, that were hung up at the university. So that, I don't know, I think that's just kind of a testament to you being able to bring people together. Someone says, Loran, is this anthology that you wrote all the comics on? Okay.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And is that oh, and we got it in the comments. Awesome. Is that something people can get? Do you still have copies?
So I have like a couple of copies here and there, but it's not something that I have, like the PDF, but it's not something that I think I'm going to republish, you know. But it was never properly published. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it was. I went to a printer. I sold them to everyone I know, or as many people that I know as would buy a copy, and it was just. So yeah, if I were to republish, if I could find as many be interested in it, then maybe I would think about it. But I've never really thought about it, so I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
There are a couple of panels that I really just hate, and at the time I was like, okay, this just looks terrible, but I don't know what to do.
You've got Nate Paul saying he still has his.
Oh, yay! Someone kept it.
I mean, I've got mine. I didn't go downstairs to get it, but I've got it.
Yeah. I know there are several people who probably like bought it and then like didn't know what to do with it after, and maybe thought that there's a couple of people. One of the stories in it does not do what it looks like it should do from the cover. It's very what'll I do?
The children, the teenagers. I'm trying to remember which.
It was the photograph story, the photographic
That's right.
story, which involved like the kind of Asian revenge ghost story.
Yeah.
So,
well, you should do you mind taking a minute to talk about how because I'd never been involved in something the way that you had produced that comic. Do you mind talking about that? I don't know if that made any sense. That was weird.
So do you mean from like the very beginnings of like conception, or?
Well, so you called me to go over to what's her name's house?
Oh yeah, that you mean that portion?
Ben and the production aspect. Yeah, Maggie's. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just because that was an experience.
Just waving bye to someone. Sorry, we're too loud. So it was a bit of wrangling with people I know, and I had a friend who was able to take the photos and be able to she was going to shoot the whole thing, and then I had to schedule like several people who were going to be in each portion to come in. I had someone to do their makeup, to do all.
You had lighting set up?
Yeah, and the amazing thing was I drew thumbnails for each panel and each page.
Okay.
And it's crazy how we used those and we stuck to them pretty much to the finished product.
That's pretty cool.
And I had everyone scheduled for a certain time to have their death scene shot.
Yeah.
And it was just people that I knew who it was just so out there that people I think just wanted to be a part of it and just be a part of something that was so weird and so odd. So if people don't know, it's the concept of the whole story was there's an old song called "What'll I Do," and it kind of goes along the lines of like, "What'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do?" And I wanted to cross that and make it a bit more sinister, and so I used it as like a woman who her lover, her boyfriend or whoever left her, and she commits suicide. And so in this same hotel room or same apartment, every certain amount of years, someone in a relationship is leaving someone, and she is there in that same place to have revenge on them as a substitute. I think there's a whole concept of substitute seeking ghosts that I researched, which gets into the Grudge movies and the Ringu. And so it was like I wanted to do my own like Asian kind of horror story. And the amazing thing was, one of the people that I worked with, her name was Mikkel, actually. She she agreed to be this ghost, this killer
Yeah.
ghost.
I had her pulled up. I couldn't find photos from the from that comic, but I do have her somewhere. Oh, where'd she go? Yeah, that's just such a cool idea. Like one just having a comic that is the panels are photographs. Oh, you've got okay. Yeah. And then two, just the concept of taking that poem and kind of turning it on its head. That's so great. And then you had that red over the black and white. There are just so many cool things about it. And then just having that whole production aspect of come over to the house, there's makeup, there's lighting, everyone's scheduled, you go in. I mean, that's just so cool.
It kind of looks backward, but
yeah, so oh gosh, that's crazy to see after all this time.
I know, it's like almost 10 years. Is it 9 or 10 years ago? I think it's maybe 9 years ago.
Jeez.
Or maybe it is 10 years ago that we actually did it. I think.
I don't know. We I'm gonna say so. Loran and I both went to Utah Valley University here in Utah, and we didn't know each other. We ended up taking this class. Was it literature and graphic novels, something like that? Yeah. And a bunch of comic nerds, all gravitated toward this. Comics are literature. Yeah. So we all kind of, were sucked in, and the teacher was fantastic, and the projects were cool. We got to make comics. We got to study comics. We talked. Do you remember that whole unit on like authority figures with mustaches?
Oh gosh.
I think that's as like granular as it got, but for the most part it was like, pay attention to the word choice and pay attention to what media they're using and the style they're drawing. Like it all contributes to the story and the message, and so we kind of like talked a little bit in that class, and then afterward we ended up being neighbors like a few years later.
Just randomly.
So that was cool. Our kids would go run around the courtyard, and we'd talk about Stephen King and different horror, stories we were reading or working on, and
just everything.
Everything. It was great. So just a lot of good things have come out of that. Do you want to talk about what you're working on now?
You
don't have
to. Well, I have several things that I'm working on that I flip-flop around on, Like I have a podcast series that I'm working on, which is really interesting to me, and it's nothing to do with anything else that I do. So the podcast is called Dear Riley.
Okay.
And it's me trying to convey emotional support and information to my children, who aren't going to be listening to this anytime soon, but in the future, when it is published, they will have a selection of conversations that I have with people around me, people I know. And how those people dealt with hard things, hard things in their life. So I have I think I've got about 3 or 4 episodes already.
Okay.
And I'm always looking for new subjects.
What have you covered in the 3 or 4 episodes?
One of them I covered someone close to me who they had an experience where they were feeling, they're a social worker, and they were feeling intrusive thoughts, which led to a series of different things, including time off work and a lot of hardship. And we talked about what got her through that and how she returned to working life and how she was able to, and things that she does constantly to cope, you know, like coping mechanisms. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I found that I had last year when I started this, I had an experience which wasn't fun, and it kind of gave me a panic attack, and so from that moment I was trying to, like, how do I survive this, you know? When seemingly it's kind of like a taboo subject to talk about to people, you know?
And Angela says, I know a guy who is stuck in bed but is trying to make stuff and live his life. You know, when you speak in broad terms, when you speak in these vagaries, we don't know what you're talking about. But thanks, Angela.
Maybe if you ever have time, I'd love to come and talk to you.
Let's talk. Let's do it. I love that idea. That is so. Yeah, I wasn't sure at first if it was like picking something that happened like out of one of your child's lives and expanding on it. But I like this idea of, no, here's your dad talking with people he knows that are struggling and what they're doing to get past it and through it. And that's really cool. That's really special.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it can be kind of helpful to people. So that's kind of like my, that's just one of the things that I've been kind of working on in the background. The thing that I'm like super excited about is a work in progress right now, which is kind of like, it's got a tentative title of The Kids Are Not All Right.
Yeah.
So, and you know what, like, because I'm not at home, I don't have that, I made like when we were at Comic-Con last year.
Yeah.
And I saw those little like one-page like zines.
Yeah, I don't have any either. Yeah.
And I was just obsessed with like the concept of them, and I love them. I love what you did, like that one that you put in the mirror and you can read backwards, and it's like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's one of those moments where, yeah, it's one of those moments where you wish you thought of that.
well, and that's the thing. I didn't think of it either. It's I mean, I made a YouTube video a while back. It's just for people checking this out. You just take a regular sheet of paper, and there's just a certain very simple way of folding it, and there's one tiny cut, and you just fold it a certain way, and it makes this little 8-page book. But you can also, you know, open it up and have the backside be a poster, or have it flip inside out and be another story, and just because it's just a sheet of paper, so you can, you know, the expectations are so low that you can do anything with it, and it turns out you can do some really cool stuff with a sheet of paper.
Yeah, and so what I did with this current work in progress, this work in progress is like a Canna. I kind of nicknamed it. It's called Canna, short for The Kids Are Not All Right. Is like a multimedia. It's going to be a multimedia story told in multiple mediums, styles, and there's going to be a bunch of like supporting content to the actual story that is taking place, and it's kind of like I'm planning it on being a serial. So once it's all ready to go, or more than 3/4 of the way finished, I'm going to start publishing it in like weekly bites, and every week there'll be a part of the story, and there'll also be supporting content, which could be a zine, one of these one-page zines, which gives like an origin story to a specific character, or it'll be a song that has been sung by one of the characters. So that's happening too, and it's normally going to be a cover of a song that is that I associate with that character. So I have people who will be providing voices for those characters, and lots of art styles, and different hopefully more collaborations with people. One of the things I have planned is like in one of the sections, there is a character who has a battle with one of the villains, but you don't see that because she's left behind to do that, and that part of the story is from another character's perspective.
Cool.
So the supporting content from that portion for that week, from that section, will be a graphic novel of that battle.
That's so cool.
So because you'll never see it otherwise. You just get the after effects. So
well, you and I talked a little bit about this at Comic-Con, but I mean, I'm just a sucker for a story that does not spell things out for you. I love it when the author provides the opportunity for a reader to piece things together, you know, and take what you're getting from maybe the song and inferring, you know, some information or some insight that you can apply to the. I love what do you think? Like you do a lot with just multimedia. Do you know, like, do you wonder about that, where that came from? Do you just run with it? Like, what's that all about?
I want to do things that well, here's the thing, like I don't want to be pigeonholed, if that makes sense.
For sure.
I never want to say that this is what I am always going to create. I'm not always going to write horror, or I can write and one of the greatest concepts ever to like just not let go of my brain is like magical realism. The fact that like even the most mundane moments in life can have something fantastical about them.
Yeah.
Just to explain that a bit, like one of the chapters talks about my villains, and a couple of characters discuss over lunch in like a really public place who they are and why they've never heard of this before, and all they can find on the internet is like this old recorded like fairy tale like song. And so what I did was I wrote the song, and then I had my son perform it and record it, and then we added some little things and some effects, and so that exists. So that little fairy tale song, like bedtime lullaby, exists now, and it's the concept that like there's multiple ways of telling your story, and this song does more to say who my villains are than a whole lot of things that I just want to write about, you know? And I do write about them, and there are some horrible things, but this song, and maybe as a, I don't know, as like a kind of, I don't know, a gift to you, perhaps I can like, I'll upload it and send a link or something.
That'd be you. I don't know if you remember, you played this for me at
oh,
FanX.
oh yeah.
But I was holding it like this while we had, you know, hundreds of people walking by.
Yeah.
But even still, it gave me chills. Angela says that sounds rad, and Angela is all about everything you're talking about. Trust me, she's into it. Yeah, it gave me chills. Just his voice and the cadence, and like it sounds like such an innocent song, and it quickly turns otherwise. It's so good.
Yeah. I feel bad for getting my like 10-year-old son to.
He probably loved it though.
Oh yeah. He loved it. He loved doing that. But yeah, I'm just taking all these horror tropes from my book, and most of my characters who should be just there. The concept is that in the world in which they exist, Mother, there's a character, Mother is God. And that's one of the only main differences. So instead of God, when people talk about God, it's not God, it's Mother. And so a godly individual who claims to be Mother has put together this group of characters who are all kind of like horror tropes, but twists on horror tropes, to do her bidding, to do her will, and to save everyday people from having to suffer from supernatural threats. But the kids, Mother's kids, as I call them, they're not all right.
I love that.
So
that's great.
Yeah, and so what I did for you, I've been slowly making my way through some character portraits and stuff, so I can give you a world premiere. I say world, but a premiere of, and this is, and you'll love this because I had a friend of mine, you know that template. I had them make a Photoshop template for me of the one-page foldable zine.
Good.
Here, can I turn my camera around?
Yeah, it's
see.
Of course it's frozen for me right now, but I'll be able to see it after the. Oh, here we go. I can see it now. Yeah. Oh, cool. That's fun.
And what I did was I made the zine of the characters.
Whoa.
And these are character portraits.
They look innocent enough.
Yeah, they're kind of, some of them.
Wow. Oh, this is cool to see.
I'm not finished with all of them, but I think I've got a couple of characters to go, as you can see from the front. But
wow, nicely done.
Yeah, so yeah, I made a little zine, and I'll have to send it to you when I finished it.
That's awesome. I mean, like it's so satisfying, especially when like, I mean, I'm a sucker for novelty. So when you have something that is so little and so unassuming, and then you actually do something with it that makes it meaningful, it's just it's the best.
And each of the characters featured in this zine, like Spooky Guitar Girl.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
They all have their own, they all have their kind of quirks, and she is my version of the telekinetic girl who's not really telekinetic, but she has a darker twist to why she has powers that seem to be telekinetic. So,
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, she's one of my, yeah. I've got several favorites, but they're all kind of favorites at different points. They each have like a portion of the story devoted to them. So,
I love that. Yeah, that's Hey, do you mind? You mentioned that you might want to say something about staying motivated, like through projects. Was there something you wanted to address about that?
So, so this kind of came after I had this emotional incident. I guess you could call it, last year.
This was last year?
Last year I had kind of like this major panic attack where I was in a very public place at the wrong time. Like I was actually in a church sacrament meeting, and I had this very horrible event, which I can only laugh about now. I was, and I couldn't breathe.
Sheesh.
And I thought I was going to die, and I was in sacrament meeting, and I was going to die. In the presence of all these people, you know. And so it was like a little while after that, after trying certain things and certain things not working for me, and then I kind of found the purpose of talking to people and talking to my family members and talking to people about what had happened. And that kind of bled into having the concept of this story come about, you know. And with my sister, my older sister, I had these certain ideas, and we talked about it like every week. And it kind of became this concept, you know. And then it kind of evolved into something that wasn't really derivative of someone else's work, but it became its own thing. And what I found is like I've been working on this almost non-stop since September last year.
Okay.
And so what has really helped, and why I love this little series that you're doing, is because like you're talking to people about their process, and you're talking about creativity. And I found that like I have these two friends online, and I've never even met them in person, but we've known each other for 5 years now on Facebook, and literally I could not live without them now, you know. Like,
right.
We talk almost every day.
Wow.
And they a shout out to Craig and Matt who we just talk about everything.
Cool. That's good.
And I share pieces of my project with them, and we talk about the project, and I talk with them about their projects, and they share things with me. And it's the concept of having creative types, or even not even creative types, talking about your projects and talking about creativity that's like creates more of like a motivation. I used to find that when we used to have conversations like in the quad where we lived, that like after conversations with you, I'm always like, I come across ideas for things from talking to someone about them that I never would have had just on my own, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that really speaks to the necessity of community and relying on other people and sharing with other people and having other people rely on you to create and to just be there and to listen to your like your craziest concepts. And my wife does a really good job of this as well. Like Amy listens to all these things, and sometimes I think she thinks, where on earth did this come from? what is happening here? Like, you know.
Yeah.
But she'll critique certain things as well, and they'll think there'll be things that I hadn't even thought of before that other people they wouldn't even think about, you know. So
well,
it's.
I mean, that's an interesting, like, yeah, because I think a lot of creators are not just I mean, just like people are just kind of brought up like assuming that if you come up with ideas for anything, they're your ideas, and you have to like keep them close and keep them polished and protected from everyone else. Yeah, and I think like you see that as adults what that turns into, and it can actually become I mean, a lot of people deal with it in a really healthy way, but there are also plenty of people who it becomes kind of almost like an illness or something. Like you know, they get kind of dark and very secretive in a particular way when you ask about ideas like why, what are you gonna do with it, like. And you know, I think especially in like the visual arts circles, at least that I've run into, a lot of the people are very willing to share because, you know, whatever technique you're learning right now, I can benefit from it, and it doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't like we both have this tool, but we're going to use it differently. Like just naturally, we're going to use it differently, and it might not even work for what we're doing. But the fact that like we talk about it and kind of it's all about creating possibilities and opportunities. And once you put those in the air in a conversation, it's great because they kind of float and they kind of hover around you for a bit, and they keep you lifted up there with them. They elevate you, and it's conversation can do amazing things.
And I'm sure there are people out there who sometimes do have nefarious intentions, you know. I think I've seen that more in like the art world, especially with friends of mine who have had art stolen, you know, and used for commercial means, you know, especially in like the X-Men fandom world.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's a lot of that. But I find that a lot of the time you could give someone the same concept and it will never be how you were going to do your own thing.
Right.
Like their brain is not the same as yours.
Well,
it's not going to.
Yeah, they're not going to come to the same conclusions. They're not going to understand the same things the same way. Like anytime I'm able to, you know, visit a school or a library or like a conference, like that's one thing that I get on my soapbox about is no one else is going to tell your story. Nobody else is qualified. Nobody else has the experience. They can try to. You can imitate, like Salvador Dali. He started off imitating all these other artists, but once he was able, once he took all those different elements and kind of put them together in his own way, that's when this Salvador Dali guy showed up in the world. And you know, it's the same thing. Like nobody else can tell your story. They can't. You know, and but it's also a skill to learn how to tell those stories and you know, its tools and methods and techniques, and
Yeah.
anyway, lots of work.
And it's funny you say that, because one of the faculty who was kind of like my mentor throughout my process, when I presented at UVU, he suddenly said something in front of all these people that totally kind of shocked me, like and it totally made me think. He said, this is great and all, but it feels very seminal, you know, like, what is next? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And for like years, I've been writing my own stories, but never quite able to finish them, you know. And
Sure.
I finally come to this project, and I thought, okay, I'm going to approach this like a TV show, you know.
Okay.
Like, there's going to be seasons. There's going to be a certain amount of chapters and books, you know. It's going to be a serial, and I'm going to use as much multimedia as I can. There's going to be so many different ways of telling the story included, and that is, in essence, is what Alteran Tales was. It was me trying to tell 5 different stories in as many different ways, with as many different art styles and concepts as I could.
Yeah.
And that has been, it's been super fun. And I'm always looking for new collaborators. So anyone interested?
By the way, Angela is. We appreciate your comments.
I've been seeing them. Yeah, steal like an artist. I kind of like have trouble sometimes calling myself an artist. I'm kind of like a dabbler, I think, a hopeful dabbler.
That's good, because I mean, like, I don't know about you, but I got to a point where it was like, okay, artist, not artist, maybe I'm a crafts person, maybe I'm just some guy who makes stuff. Whatever it is, I enjoy it. People sometimes can get on board, and like, you know, then you start getting into that whole thing of like, well, what is art? And then once you know what art is, like, what is good versus bad art? And then, who cares? Like, let's just make stuff.
Yeah. I want to tell stories, and I want and stories. I find if I'm telling the story that I want to tell, and I'm excited about writing, and like, I'm so excited with certain portions of what I've written, and some of them are based on just one set piece, you know, one action scene or one conversation that I want to have. Like, and there's going to be some diverse stuff, hopefully. Like, one of my characters, and I'm just getting into his portions of the story. He has mother's word. That's his kind of like special ability. He has mother's word. So what mother says goes. And so if he tells someone to do something, they have no choice.
I see. Okay.
But it comes with a price, and his price is very. It's the closest thing to my own experience about how I feel about myself, or how I feel about mental illness, or so many different things. So there's so many different things in these characters that I'm just, I can't wait for people to read, you know.
I love that you're like, you're obviously creating like a fantastic world and fantasy characters, but they're human. There's like a humanity in what you're describing that is that makes them relatable, you know? And yeah, I love that. I thrive on that.
Yeah, and it's like that. It comes back for me. It comes back to that like magical realism.
Yeah.
It's like the moments that are real, that like characters doing other things, that and having conversations about things while they're doing just normal things, but these aren't normal people.
Right.
Like yeah, I mean, just like another thing is like one line that someone who read a chapter that I needed someone to check with to see if it was working for me.
Okay.
I think Matt, one of my partners in crime, I wrote this one part where two brothers talk to each other, and for 3 days of the month, one of the brothers is a werewolf, but his older brother, for 3 days of the month, his older brother is in a human form, and for the rest of the month, he's a husky dog.
Do their 3 days overlap?
Yeah, they're always the same 3 days.
Same 3 days.
So, so it's these mini conversations, and one of the characters, well, the older one who is in boy form for 3 days, he says, "Oh, that conversation was horrible. Why didn't you stop me from saying all these horrible things to everyone?" And the younger brother says, you only have 3 days of the month for words, and I let you have them. And so it's just
Wow.
It's just I just want to have real but meaningful conversations.
Yeah, that's
between
incredible.
my characters. So yeah, it's just fun little things.
Did you? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And it just gives me this. I don't know. I'm one of those people who can really get into my multimedia, my content, and I love the concept of frisson.
I don't know what that means. I've heard that. I don't know what that is.
So it's when you're listening to a song or you're watching a movie and suddenly you're so overcome that you might cry, or that you might feel that music and that beat, that verse, or that musical instrument, that you just suddenly like, it makes you take a breath.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and, I know that.
Yeah. And it's like this frisson, and it's like, I'm just fascinated with that concept. I had that experience pretty viscerally with the last Dark Tower book in Stephen King's series.
Did you?
And there's this one moment where all the characters are finally coming to the ending of the whole series, and I suddenly got to this point where, like, holy crap, I'm not going to have this again. And like these characters are having these happy endings, and I'm like, and I cried.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you back on, Loran. Aw, I hope you're doing well. Let's see if we can get back with Loran here. Let's try and connect.
I cut off.
Jeez. Sorry about that. I think I found out that there's like an hour.
We've been chatting an hour.
And I think that was an hour. Yeah, which is
me too.
I mean, I'm good with it. That was quite a moment to get cut off. Sorry about that. Look, everyone jumped back in. We're right back where we were.
Frisson.
Frisson.
Like, yeah. It's that. It's those moments.
But is it like specifically about like maybe in these otherwise banal or like mundane everyday moments, or is it like can it be
anything?
Anything? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make a person feel that way by the words you put down on paper and the characters and situations you've created. Oh, Henson says get new Wi-Fi. I think Instagram cuts us off at an hour, so hey, we got another hour. It's a fresh start. Hey, I wanted to ask you if you read I think it's called Elevation, Stephen King's new. It's
I
like
haven't. I have
novella.
seen it though. Is it good? Is it worth reading? Sometimes. Oh, really?
I loved it. Yeah.
Oh,
I loved it. Yeah.
Some things are really hit and miss for me, you know, with Stephen King. Like Yep. But yeah, I do love. There's a lot of aspects to his writing. I think the last thing I read of here that I read that was the most similar was it Nosferatu, which is Joe Hill, which is not even Stephen King, it's his son. But it felt to me like the most Stephen King novel you could ever write. And
really?
I have this.
Okay.
I've seen his new book. Is it Institute or Institution or something that comes out in September or so?
Something like that. Yeah.
And that.
Right.
I think I'm very excited to check that out a bit more. But Elevation, I'll have to check it out.
Cool. I don't know. I mean, it's a quick read, and it totally caught me by surprise in a good way. It's almost like a. I'll just leave it like that. Yeah, you know, you check it out if you want. What else are you reading or have you picked up recently?
Do you know what I can't get enough of right now? Have you heard of the comic Die? So it's by Kieran Gillen, who is written X-Men.
Oh, okay.
He's written The Wicked and the Divine right now, which is coming to a close within the next couple of months. Which
I
love my
goodness,
like, and that's another example of like things I want to emulate. You know, like I had there's a character in there that the emotional beats. It's just like, and the talk of Hamartia or Hamartia is just got me on the edge for the ending of the book, and I'm just like, oh my, again, it's like those things that you're so excited to read. But like it's called the comic, the newest one is called Die, and there are 5 issues so far. And Kieran Gillen writes, and the artist is Stephanie Hahn. And her work is it's just divine. Like,
yeah, I'm looking at the cover now. This is cool.
I never knew how much I needed this art to exist, you know, and this writing to exist. It's just so well done. And the characters are very, very interesting. And there's a whole concept of like Dungeons and Dragons gameplay behind the whole book that they're developing. So you'll actually be able to play this game. A dungeon, you can,
Oh, wow.
And you choose characters to play. And then within the game, you choose the actual fantasy character types that your character builds. It's bonkers.
That's rad.
But it's amazing.
Wow.
So
Okay, well I've got it pulled
yeah,
up to look into a little
and
bit.
it's very Kieran Gillen,
That's cool.
but it's
Cool.
yeah, I love that. I'm trying to think what else I've been like consuming recently.
Or movies, or audio, music, or whatever. It's all
Yeah,
story.
do you know what? The lights just came back on. My friend Maxime, he puts together these playlists, and he calls them Masoup.
Cool.
So MASOUPE, and they're on Spotify. So he's got a whole bunch of them, and the most recent playlist, I think it's number 47, I think, is just giving me life.
Wow.
while I'm writing. And just, it's got springtime
Wow.
vibes and summer elements, and just like, and
He really put some thought into
yeah,
these, I guess.
I was like listening to it, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone else has had such like an emotional reaction to like this playlist, but I totally did, and I'm just getting
Wow.
into it, I can be all consumed by the media that I consume.
Yeah. Yeah, there was someone I followed a while back that their whole like philosophy was to fully experience any emotion you're going through at the time. Not necessarily that you're doing that, but I think music definitely like pulls at the subconscious, in a particular way that can be really therapeutic.
Yeah, and especially for
yeah.
Kana, my work in progress, every character has 4 or 5 songs like I associate with them. So I have this huge playlist of like all the characters and all the songs that I associate with them, and some
That's
of them completely take over the way that I write about certain aspects of the character from how I feel listening to the song that I associate with their character. And that has been another thing that's motivated me as well. Like, be in the right atmosphere, get the right media that you're consuming and that you want to emulate,
That's something that a lot of these writers' conferences and things that I participated in, a lot of people, and probably rightly so, they get hung up on like the structure of the story and everything, and the character arc, and that's good. You got to tackle those, but you can tell that they're so stressed out about doing it by the letter, by the number, you know what I mean? Like checking every box, and am I doing this wrong? And like I always just want to like, and sometimes I do just shout out like, look, no one's forcing you to make this book. No one's asking you to. No one's forcing you to. So you might as well enjoy the thing. Get in a comfortable spot, throw on that music that takes you there, and just immerse yourself. Otherwise, you're torturing yourself.
I listened to this playlist predominantly in November when I used NaNoWriMo to get the bulk of the book finished, and I listened to nothing else. Okay. I consumed no other media. I listened to this playlist on the way to and from work, to wherever I was going in the car, whenever I was writing, and I had to consume. I had to have it consume me. And then I reached this point in January where, luckily, I'm quite a heavy plotter. I have all the main beats of everything that is going to happen, but I've reached several moments where my influence of certain things that are going to happen, it had to change. So I have this section at the back of my document that has all the pieces that I'm not going to talk about that, and it was pretty much the music, and the feeling that that character has sung this song and they sung it for a reason, and that doesn't gel with what I'm writing about them at this moment. So that sounds crazy saying it loud.
No. It kind of reminds me of Werner Herzog, the director, and so it was a documentary of the filming of Fitzcarraldo.
Is that the one with the boat?
Yeah, they go out in the jungle to like build an opera house, I think. I might actually, here's the thing, since I've watched it, I think I've confused it with another story, so it's actually half Fitzcarraldo and half I don't know what else, but I know it's Werner Herzog, and I know it's this behind the scenes document. Anyway, he talks about being in the jungle, and in the beginning, when they first get to the jungle to film and everything's exciting. The jungle is vibrant, it's full of life, it's flowering, it's nourishing, and then the longer they're there and the more disease ridden their crew gets, and they've been attacked by natives with spears, like literally, and just things have gone wrong, they start describing the jungle as a place of death. Everything is out to eat everything else. It's kill or be killed. They're describing the same location, the same environment, but that experience has changed them to the point that they just see it differently now, and their experience. I don't know if that's like what you're saying. That sort of reminds me, like,
I love the process of that. It would just be so to be a fly on the wall to see that actually happening. Just
well, that's what the documentary is.
I have to check that out now.
I can't remember what the documentary is called, but it was on Hulu.
Hi, the Brewher just joined.
Hi, the Brewher. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Welcome. I guess you know her. Oh, look at that! You got fans.
And they may have missed all the juicy stuff, right?
Oh, man.
I know.
Loran was crying and
there were
throwing
tears
stuff.
And emotions, and it was a whole
thing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna use that now for song. Yeah. So is there how can we get involved in what you're doing? When can we expect to read about these stories you've been writing?
There is some more work to do, but I'm on a pretty a tight schedule for when I want to have everything finished, but stupidly last year in September I thought, I'll be done this time, I'll be done this at this time, and I'll be done this by this time, and it'll be ready to publish, and I had this whole schedule laid out, and I just I realized that like real life doesn't always allow you to allow your dreams to come immediately true. So what I want to do is like have a whole bunch of it finished before I start sending it out. But I think you can check me out on Instagram, the Grenian, and I think I'm the Grenian or Loran Cook on Twitter as well. So it'll be like capital L-O-Z.
So here's
some of my little fan
Instagram.
arts. There's a little Emma Frost there, who's my favorite X-Man.
Yeah.
And a character from Die that I did, that you used in your promo, so that's cool.
Oh,
Ash.
Which one was that?
Yeah, she's from the Die comic.
Okay,
yeah.
I was wondering.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, catch me on my Instagram or on Twitter, where I'm Loran Cook, C-O-O-K, and L-O-Z. So yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Man, any last words
have conversations about create stuff, whatever you're doing, create something. Like, as we were talking about earlier, you have a story that no one else can tell. And like, I just love to talk to people about their processes and doing stuff. So go create. Tell your story, because no one else is going to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect ending. Thank you so much. Man, it's always nice talking to you. It's crazy to think, like, September.
Oh yeah.
You helped out at my booth on Saturday, and Angie who's here, she helped out on that Friday just before you. So
Thank you for considering to talk to me.
But are you kidding? Come on. But like being in this situation, September I was on a cane, really struggling.
It's crazy.
And by the end of September I was in bed.
Helpers Unite.
I was, like, Helpers Unite. Absolutely. Yeah, and
do you know what? That was one of my favorite Comic-Cons. Being behind the scenes with you, it felt like I was like, I don't know. It was a different Comic-Con experience. Like, and I really appreciated that, and being able to, I don't know, talk to people and be there with you. I loved it.
It was fun. Yeah, me too. I brought in that little vending machine that you turn the crank and the bubbles, and like we were just cracking up when people would like pull out a little toy or something.
Pictures and the tattoos, and it was just like this. These moments of just like
Oh, it froze.
I'm back.
You're back.
Amy was trying to call
me. Oh,
that's fine.
I'm so sorry. We'll wrap up here, but yeah, maybe there were little mini songs for
joy in a plastic bubble
for people. Hopefully. Yeah. Well, and that's what you're doing. I mean, with these sheets of paper, like I said, I love being surprised by the ordinary where you wouldn't expect it. So anyway, I can't wait to see what you're working on, and just thank you for taking the time to talk and share your work. That kid was disappointed she didn't get a better project.
You know what?
That's right. We had one that was a little bummed.
And
I think Angie gave her some more quarters to try again.
You win some, you lose some, right?
Yeah.